Okay guys, in front of us today is Eriana's Vow and its exotic catalyst. Now we haven't actually reviewed Eriana's Vow. No, we had like a pre-review of it before Shadowkeep launch. But this hand cannon's got a lot to offer. And with this exotic catalyst, there are builds such as this one today, which are extremely lethal. Now, obtaining this exotic catalyst, I really can't even remember how I got it. I'm pretty sure you just play like the storyline and eventually like Banshee or someone gives it to you. Or maybe it's after you unlock Eriana's Vow, the catalyst drops right here in your quest log. But it does require a lot of work, essentially stating that you need to complete Gambit, Gambit Prime, Crucible, Vex Offensive, and Strike activities. It's got like a progress earn bar there. A lot of people for a while were thinking it was bugged because the progress that they were getting from completing a single activity was like 1%. Turns out it's not bugged. It's exactly how Bungie wanted it to be. They wanted it to be extremely grindy. And after talking with Z here on Twitter, whose account we're using today, and big shout out to him, he said that he started the grind on October 2nd, and he pressed on through October 5th, taking only a few 3-hour breaks in between. He said the biggest contributor to him getting the catalyst though was the ×3 catalyst progression multiplier that you can get on the seasonal rank. So for those that are going for this, I wouldn't suggest getting this catalyst until you get to that seasonal rank and get that 3x catalyst progression multiplier. Now, considering all the work that you have to put in to get this thing, what does it do? Well, it actually increases our magazine size to 9. It also gives our weapon auto-loading holster. Now, that may not sound juicy. I know normally we like to see catalysts that read things are exotic perks here. Cerberus is a great example of a very creative exotic catalyst. But for something like Eriana's Vow, which is already extremely lethal, especially in PvP, this catalyst is perfect. It is actually the last component here for me to ever consider using this weapon in one of my main loadouts, and that's for PvP or for PvE. Now again, for those that don't know Eriana's Vow and its intrinsic perk, it states looks can kill. This weapon fires special shield piercing ammunition, and it comes with a scope. This hand cannon, guys, is actually a special weapon. It also comes with extended barrel for that bump there in range, accurized rounds for another bump there in range, and our trait here is death at first glance. Bonus damage when aiming down sights on the opening shot of an attack. This bonus is preserved if the shot deals precision damage or strikes an elemental shield. Now, the main thing to take away from that, in something like PvP, we're hitting about 164 per crit when death at first glance is actually procced, and 103 per body. Now, that damage drops down pretty significantly if you don't have death at first glance procced, essentially dropping somewhere around 130-ish per crit and 78 per body. Now, previously when we reviewed this weapon, I thought it was good, but I felt like things were just awkward. The weapon's handling speed was very slow. Was constantly having to reload, and even though its stats there are beautiful in terms of its range stat as well as its impact stat, that handling and that reload speed is terrible. Now, considering that this is also a hand cannon but a special weapon, figuring out what to pair here was also difficult. Turns out Z here has a phenomenal build already going, and I was just able to step right into it. Essentially, he was rocking out Peacekeepers with this beautifully rolled Antiope and combining it with Eriana's Vow. So essentially, you get a shot off with Eriana's Vow, you land the crit or even the body shot, you get the immediate swap to your SMG with Peacekeepers because of the exotic perk Mecha holster. You clean them up with your Antiope or whatever SMG you're rocking in that kinetic slot. You could even use something like Exit Strategy here, which is that Gambit SMG, but I actually prefer an SMG here with a lot of range, so Antiope would be the preferred choice. Now, the beautiful thing is, while you are getting a kill with your SMG, auto-loading holster on Eriana's Vow is now at work. And again, this perk has received like a number of buffs in the past. It works a lot faster than what you think. It's like a second to 2 seconds and immediately reload your weapons. Such an underrated perk, and it's so good in this sandbox. But as soon as you get the kill there with your SMG, you swap back to Eriana's Vow, which is now reloaded, and Peacekeepers will reload your SMG for you. Again, you're swapping between two different weapons that are both auto-loading, thus allowing us here to pretty much run and gun with this build. And that was my biggest complaint about Eriana's Vow, was I never felt like I could run and gun. I felt too passive, or I had to lane too much. Now the weapon with this exotic catalyst has completely changed the game for us here, allowing for users that do like to play aggressively to do so. Now, you probably see me getting a bunch of one-shot kills. Yes, I am proccing Inertia Override. We said in our previous review that it should hit 196.8. Looks like it rounds up to 197. Now, that's not going to kill max resilience Guardians, but it's going to kill the majority of them at 8 resilience or less. So only non-resilience and above will survive Inertia Override. And again, other things like Weapons of Light can go even beyond that. And I think I saw MTash Trash the other day put out a review with Eriana's Vow and Empowering Rift. That's another disgusting loadout. The problem with that loadout, at least in the way that we're trying to use Eriana's Vows, we're trying to play a little more aggressively. And considering that you have auto-loading holster now, it's almost as if it was completely designed for the more aggressive players. Now, the magazine buff to 9. How is that inside of PvE? Well, the main thing to take away from Eriana's Vow, if you're going to use it in PvE, it's not a damage dealer. We've established that in comparison to other 90 round per minute snipers, it does less damage. Matter of fact, when we compared it to something like Tranquility in our previous review, Tranquility was doing 25% more damage than Eriana's Vow and 65.7% more damage than Eriana's Vow when Death at First Glance was not procced. So it's obvious here that other weapons are doing more damage. Now granted, Tranquility is also in that kinetic slot, so the extra 10% damage there, but that's not what Eriana's Vow is really meant for, at least in PvE. Really what it's meant for in PvE is dealing with barrier enemies when you happen to come across them. As again, that intrinsic perk states that the weapon fires special shield-piercing ammunition. So yes, you get the benefits of being able to bypass barriers, and this can be barriers for anything really. Even like Hydras that have like the rotating shields, you can shoot through those. Now another added benefit about Eriana's Vow, because I know most people are bummed out that it does less damage than other weapons, especially weapons that match its rounds per minute, but considering that it is a shield-piercing weapon, it should proc something like Breach Refractor, which is an artifact mod that states that grants grenade energy on final blows with shield-piercing weapons, or when a member of your fire team shuts down a barrier champion's ability. Now that mod may not work with like Peacekeepers and Eriana's Vow and the current build you see in front of us, but our build the other day, Magnetic Darkness, would 100% take advantage of Eriana's Vow and this artifact mod together. Another build to consider is slotting Breach Refractor on a Warlock chest piece and just rock a Devour build. Go whichever way you want. And if you're still trying to run and gun, you could rock something like Transversive Steps to get the auto reload whenever you blink or whenever you sprint. And with each kill of Eriana's Vow, you should be proccing something like Breach Refractor, thus giving your grenade back and the ability to proc something like Devour more often. So Eriana's Vow and its exotic catalyst, it's good, guys. It really changes the game up for me. I think I've seen some players rocking Lucky Pants. I think Drewski combined it with Lucky Pants, which is another great loadout for hunters that want to play aggressively and get the improved accuracy on the swap. I really liked it with this Titan build, and for my Warlocks, the build that I just mentioned now with something like Breach Refractor sounds extremely disgusting. Haven't used it yet, might actually make a build on it though. But there's a lot of versatility here that this exotic catalyst brings to the table, and it hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna get to the point where people are gonna get really annoyed with this weapon. And I think the only reason why it hasn't happened yet is because most people don't have this exotic catalyst. I think as more people get the catalyst, they're probably going to start using it more in Crucible, because the ability to just walk around and immediately take off 164 health on a Guardian is disgusting. Like, even though you can compare this weapon to like a bow, because essentially they do the same thing, a bow still requires a draw time. This is pretty much immediate. Yes, there's some time delay there in aiming down sights, but Death at First Glance pretty much procs the moment you're aiming down sights. It's on that opening shot. I've had a few friends inside of comp already start complaining about Eriana's Vow as they've run into teams actually team body shotting together with Eriana's Vow, as a body shot does 103 damage. So essentially, if you and another friend body shot an enemy together, well, that's it. You just killed them, even if they're max resilience. So it hasn't happened yet, but Eriana's Vow is definitely on its way to becoming a top meta weapon. And I'm not entirely against it. Anything that can make people put Recluse down for just a match or two, my God, try something else. Well, fellas, that is our review for Eriana's Vow and its exotic catalyst. Try it out for yourself, get it. I would not advise going after this thing though until you get the catalyst 3 times progression multiplier. Big shout out to Z here for letting us get on his account. It's a pleasure, man. Very much enjoyed this exotic catalyst. And again, previously, I didn't think highly of this exotic, but this one catalyst has changed my opinion completely. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.